How do you top your love for your cat? With a cascade of decadent savory gravy over a mouth-watering mousse pate. Fancy Feast gems. 2 gourmet pâtés in one convenient pack. Simply peel and plate to reveal a pyramid shape that makes eating delightful and pamper her with an experience as extraordinary as she is. Turn the everyday into the extraordinary with Fancy Feast gems.
Does it ever feel like you're a marketing professional just speaking into the void? But with LinkedIn ads, you can know you're reaching the right decision makers, a network of 130 million of them, in fact. You can even target buyers by job title, industry, company, seniority, skills, and did I say job title? See how you can avoid the void and reach the right buyers with LinkedIn ads. Spend $250 on your first campaign and get a free $250 credit for the next one. Get started at linkedin.com/campaign. Terms and conditions apply.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to Nerding Out on Neurodiversity, the podcast for all things neurodivergence. I'm Dr. Matt Zakreski, clinical psychologist and professional speaker, and I'm happy to be your host through the wild trails of the neurodivergent world.
And I'm Jake Noonan, educational coach and humanities teacher, your co-host and producer, and I'm thrilled to help share the stories and the experiences of wonderful people in the world of neurodiversity.
We're really excited for today's guest, which we are going to say a lot because we're always really excited about every guest we get. So let's get into it. Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Nerding Out on Neurodiversity. I am your host, Dr. Matt Zakreski, clinical psychologist, professional speaker, published author, podcast host, obviously because you're here listening to me, and wearer of many hats. With me, as always, is the Abbott to my Costello, Mr. Jake Noonan. Say hi, Jake.
Hey, everybody. Great to be here, as always. Dr. Matt, that was a throwback one for me. I haven't heard Abbott and Costello in so long.
I was like, I'm in an old school mood today. Probably because I'm flying to Vegas today, and it's like, I feel like old Hollywood, like the Sands classic Vegas. So, yeah, you know.
Perfect. Totally understandable.
I'll do like Key and Peele next time, like modernize it. So we have an awesome guest with us today. Jackie, would you like to introduce yourself to our listeners?
Yeah. Hi, everyone. Very excited to be here. My name is Jackie Silver. I am a registered dietitian. I am licensed in Canada and the US, and I run my own business. It's called Jackie Silver Nutrition, and we focus on serving neurodivergent kids, teens, adults, and families.
So this feels like a real, like an esoteric thing to like jump in on, but like you're licensed on the US and Canada.
Yeah, because I did my schooling in Canada and then I moved to the States about a year ago. I mean, I've been working with US clients even when I was living in Canada because I became licensed. I took the licensing exams for both countries. And yeah, so my practice, we serve clients in Canada and the US, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, it's been really hard to get licensed from, at least as a psychologist, in both countries. And that was before the troubles, which if you're listening to this podcast in 2027, you're going to be like, hopefully you're going to be like, what are they talking about? And if you don't feel that way, well, we're really sorry. So like it just has this like moment of dread to it. It's like, dun, dun, dun.
Yeah.
So Jackie, this is going to seem like a softball question, but honestly, I see a lot of dietitians out there, registered nutritionists. What exactly is it that you do?
Me personally or registered dietitians as a whole?
So I guess start broadly and then narrow down to you.
Okay, yeah, that's a great question. So first of all, okay, I'm going to explain what's the difference between a registered dietitian and a nutritionist.
Love it.
So if you are registered, you're a registered dietitian, it means you've done a 4-year undergraduate degree, probably a master's degree in nutrition, and a 10-month internship of rotations in multiple different clinical and community settings. And you've written a licensing exam and you're registered with a governing body and you have a right to use that title, registered dietitian. So the training is it's standardized, it's for the most part, excellent training. Whereas the term nutritionist is not a protected title. So you can call yourselves a nutritionist. You could take a 1-month course and call yourself that. It's not protected. You have no idea what their training is, what their background is, if they're using evidence-based information. And it's definitely not, I would say, trustworthy. Some people might get offended by that, but that's the reality. Yeah, so a lot of people do not know the difference, which is pretty scary because it's like the difference between getting thorough care that you need and being told to take 100 supplements and cut out 1 million foods from your diet. It could be pretty drastic.
It's very analogous to like a psychologist is a protected term,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I have to take an exam for that. But anybody can call themselves a therapist. That's not a protected term, right?
Oh,
And I would guess that there's the parallel continues, right? That there's a lot of people who can slap up the word therapist online, like, I'll help you. And people are like, oh, this person has a great TikTok. They seem to know what they're talking about. Versus like, if you're a registered dietitian, you went through the license exam, you did all that stuff, that shows a certain level of care. But anybody can be like, hey, I'm Jenny, and here's my food blog. You should cut out all things that have faces. You're like, oh, well, I guess I should listen to Jenny.
yeah, exactly. And it's pretty scary because I would say in the neurodivergent space with nutrition, there are a lot of so-called professionals out there telling families to cut out gluten, cut out casein, cut out, 100 different foods for their kids to cure their autism. Like I cannot tell you how many, honestly, probably 2-3 times a month, I get phone calls from people saying, can you help cure my child's autism? Can you cure their ADHD? And I'm like, no, I can't. And I tell them, like, go to a naturopath or a holistic nutritionist because they will make all these recommendations that are not founded in science. And I'm not willing to do that.
Oh, see, Jackie, you are in the right place here. And also, friends, since this is only an audio podcast, she dropped the air quotes on that. Like, we're just like really like, let's really drill in that like we are dripping with sarcasm here. Yes, I love that. No, my first job in mental health was working at a residential treatment facility for kids with severe behavioral disorders, all of whom were on the autism spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
And I cannot tell you the parents who came in, they were like, it's red dye 40. It's gluten.
Mm.
It's artificial flavor blue 10 or something. Like,
Yeah.
my heart goes out to them because they're desperate.
Yeah.
It was severe challenges, and some snake oil salesman on the internet's like, hey, it's all about red dye 40. You take red dye 40 out and your kid will sit there quietly and do what they're told. And like, as judgmental as I can be about the hucksters, I can hold space for the families because I understand how hard it is.
Mm-hmm.
It actually makes me angrier at the people selling the snake oil.
Yeah.
Because it's like really taking advantage of some desperate humans out there. And that's just super uncool and unethical. And that's part of the reason we're excited to have you on here, because it's like, let's dispel some myths, man. Let's break it down. So tell me then, when you're working with neurodivergent families, I'm assuming it's not one size fits all. So like, what does that process look like?
Yeah. So I always do a 75-minute initial assessment, which is a very thorough deep dive where I get to know the client, their family, their lifestyle, medical history, habits, food preferences, dislikes, and we get really clear on what their goals are. Sometimes I'll ask, how do you picture your life looking like in terms of your health and diet 6 months from now? Because sometimes people don't really know what they want to work on. And so we get very clear on the goals, but I will say a lot of common goals that I work on with clients is if it's a family who has a child who is autistic or has ADHD, I'll often see food aversion, sensory sensitivities to many different types of textures of foods. So I coach the parents on how to set up a mealtime environment, mealtime routine that is more peaceful, more fun, and more conducive to wanting to try new foods. And then I coach the parents on how to expose their kids to the new foods and how to introduce new foods and come up with some ideas. And often with that selective eating, I'll see a lot of constipation. GI issues are a lot more common in autistic folks compared to the general population. So yeah, constipation is big. GI symptoms like IBS, I'll see that a lot, more so in the adults. And also what comes along with selective eating is sometimes growth issues. So a kid might be underweight, they might be falling off their growth curve. So I also help the parents how to increase energy intake of their kids so that they can catch up with their growth curve. And also what is pretty common is nutrient deficiencies when someone's diet is very narrow. So I often ask the parents to ask their pediatrician to get blood work so that we can just make sure that we've covered all our bases and we're not missing anything. And oftentimes we find low iron, we find low vitamin D, B12. Yeah, and oftentimes the pediatricians have never recommended getting blood work. So it can be quite eye-opening. And then we can fix that with a supplement or also iron-rich foods. And then with kids with ADHD, oftentimes the families are coming to me also because of picky eating. That's common as well. But the kid might have just started a stimulant and it has suppressed their appetite. They're not eating. They've started losing weight. They're not growing. And the doctor's threatening to remove the stimulant from them, to discontinue it because they're not growing and eating. So I help the parents with that, coming up with ways to help the child gain weight and catch up on their growth curve and come up with foods that the child can eat with a low appetite that feels safer. So often that's liquid meals. And another big thing I would say is the interoceptive awareness, which is often dulled, I would say, in neurodivergent folks. So I work with, I would say, teens, sometimes kids too, like older kids and adults, to learn what their body's cues are, telling them that they're hungry, telling them that they're full, so that they can start to pay attention to those and use those to help guide some of their eating. So I would say, I know that was a really long answer. Those are the big challenges that come up with the kids and families that I work with.
Yes, long, but also it was both quality and quantity. And that's just awesome. Like, I was like, oh, and that's really good. And that's really good. I mean, you spoke to so many important things there. I mean, I think a lot of neurodivergent people like struggle with interoception, right? Like, where is my body in space? What am I feeling right now?
Mm-hmm.
My favorite example of that when I give talks on this is like, how many of you have bruises on your elbows and hips because you always are walking into walls and people are like, wait, you knew about that? I'm like, how many of us can, like, am I hungry? Am I nervous? Am I full? Am I sleepy? What is happening with my body right now? And a big part of the work we do from the mental health side is increasing that internal awareness, right? Because the more we know, then we can be empowered to do something about it. So, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of, things line up there. I love that. And I think every parent who's listening to this podcast, when you said picky eaters, they all perked up, right? They're in their car on the highway. They're like, I'm pulling over. I'm listening to this part. So walk us through picky eating from your professional perspective.
So yeah, that's a pretty broad question. It is a very big topic. I'll say, okay, so I've done additional training in SOS, sequential oral sensory approach to feeding, the SOS approach to feeding it's called. So it's basically sensory feeding therapy. So I like to incorporate tools from that training into my work. But I would say, okay, the framework that I follow when working with parents of picky or selective eaters is the first thing we look at is, what is the mealtime environment? What is the type of chair that the child is sitting in? Are their feet dangling? Because if their feet are dangling, their body is just so focused on staying upright that it makes it harder to eat. And it's actually pretty shocking how many kids eat from a bar stool. Yeah, you look shocked right now.
I'm legitimately shocked. I have no poker face, as you know, but like, holy crap.
Yeah.
Jake, your mind is blown too right now, right?
Yeah, pretty much.
So, Jackie, Jake and I met when we worked at a school for gifted kids. We didn't really have a lunchroom per se. We had a bunch of round tables that we had to set up every day. But the tables weren't tall enough for all the kids. And I'm just thinking about how many kids. Oh my God.
Like their feet were dangling?
So many dangling feet.
There was so much dangle.
So many.
Too many dangle.
Yeah. It makes such a big difference. If you think about it for yourself, if you're at a bar, sitting at a bar stool, you're spending so much energy just trying to not fall.
Right?
Like, how on earth can you focus on eating when you're just trying to stay balanced?
Especially after a couple of cocktails.
Yeah. Yeah. So often before we even look at the food, we're looking at the environment, the chair, the dinner time environment. Are kids eating alone? Are they eating with with a family member that could be there to model for them? And then we look at also the routine of dinner time. So I have an elaborate 11-step family dinner time routine that I go through with parents, and we try to pick just a few that stand out to them that they want to start implementing with their kids. And it's really unbelievable how much of a difference this alone makes. Because I find when we have more of a routine, autistic kids, they tend to do well with routine. And it just creates an environment that is just much more relaxing, because I find parents are really stressed out, understandably. So many mothers tell me they feel like failures because they can't figure out how to feed their child. And, I'm not going to belittle that at all. So the parents are so stressed out, so anxious every single dinner time, and the kid feels that anxiety as well. And do you think that that's a good environment for trying new foods? No, not at all. Yeah, so many parents have told me that mealtime becomes more fun, and they sense it in the kids too. So they become more relaxed. So it's also a lot about building mealtime peace, which is a really big thing, and making it not be a battle. Those are the first things that we implement. And then I like to tell parents about the steps to eating. I find this also really calms them down. So the steps to eating, that was developed by the psychologist who developed the SOS approach to feeding. I'm blanking on her name right now, but I did my training under her. So it's essentially a staircase that starts with at the bottom level is tolerating, and then interacting, engaging, touching, smelling, eating. And then under each of those steps are another 10 different steps. So when parents tell me, oh, my kid, no, they won't eat that food, we shouldn't even bother trying, I say, well, of course they're not eating it. They can't even tolerate having it on the table. So there's many, many, many steps that come before we can expect a child to start accepting a new food. First step is interacting it, tolerating it, being in the same room. Then perhaps it's being at the table. Then maybe it's being on their plate. And then within eating itself, it's putting to your lips, putting in your mouth, spitting it out, putting it in your mouth, taking one bite, spitting out. And then eventually they could swallow. And it's obviously not this linear with every child. Some children are good with the first few steps, and then the next are hard. But I find that this really helps to calm parents down, to realize that it's going to take time. It really takes time and multiple exposures. So for neurotypical kids, they say it's about 10 to 15 exposures of a new food before they might start accepting it. It's double that with autistic children. It just takes time, and there's nothing wrong with that. Those are how I like to set the stage. And then I like to coach the parents on how to talk about foods with their kids. If their kids say, ew, I don't like that, can we reframe that to, okay, you don't like it yet. You're exploring it. You're still learning about it. It's still new to us. So yeah, and then I get into the different techniques for how to introduce the new foods and what new foods are we going to start with. And I like to make very micro changes. So if a child is only eating one brand of chicken nuggets, and they know if it's another brand, they will not touch it, can we switch it up with another brand and mix it with the safe brand and see how that goes? Or I'm thinking of one client where she made all these muffins for her kid. And so I said, okay, let's try half whole wheat flour, half white flour in the muffins. And the kid loved it. Or can we add some flax meal to the muffins? Because the kid was also constipated along with being a picky eater. And that went over really well. So it's a lot of micro changes. And I'll also look at for patterns at what textures the kids tend to like. So if it's crispy, I'll say, okay, can we try air fryer broccoli? Can we try some stuff in the air fryer to make it that crispy texture that your child likes? Or if they like sauces, some parents tell me their kids love ketchup. So I'll say, okay, can we try pasta with ketchup or this new food with ketchup? So I look for themes and then we make micro changes to start building confidence, getting those wins, and focus on making changes from there. Yeah. And also, I always like to tell parents this analogy that imagine if you go to a new country and you try a food there that you've never seen before. So, for example, I know in parts of Asia, they sell bugs on a stick. So, what's your reaction going to be at the thought of eating that? Like disgust, complete disgust.
I've actually had a fried scorpion and it didn't really taste like anything. It tasted like fried, right? But the visceral experience, like your brain is screaming at you, like, don't do that. No, you can see the pointy stabby thing. And you're like, no. And then you eat it. And it's like, no, I feel like I'm eating like the best analogy I could give is like tempura. Fried, not a whole lot of taste inside, sort of like a mush almost. And like weirdly disappointed. Like you'd expect scorpion to taste like a most extreme flavor because they're terrible nightmare bugs.
Yeah.
But like it was like, oh, all right. But I mean, for normal people, I totally agree with you.
No, but that's exactly the point, right? You look at it and you think it's going to be disgusting, and then you taste it and you're like, oh, that's actually not so bad.
No, I just had a question from that because like I taught in South Korea, so I lived there for a year, and talking about Southeast Asia specifically, like bugs were a big thing. So I didn't know it when I first went there, like when we were first there at all. And then some of my friends went out, and there's like these huge vats of like, I don't remember what kind of bug they were, but they're like little larvae almost. And it just smelled so bad to me, at least, like on the street. You could tell when they were there. Like it smelled like feet everywhere.
Oh.
And I'm like curious, like how much is like smell overpowering taste when it comes to some like neurodiversity aspects?
Ooh.
Oh,
Great question.
I mean, it could be a lot. Yeah, smell is a big thing. It's a sensory thing. So yeah, a reason why some people might not like foods is because of the smell. It could be because of the texture, could be because of how it looks. So yeah, absolutely. Smell is a big thing. Mm-hmm.
What would you end up like doing in those kind of situations if like you have a client or you have a parent come in and they're like, my kid focuses mostly on smell rather than anything else, and like if the food does not smell right to them, they will never touch it. Like what kind of approach would you take for that?
So I would say that's actually pretty not common for what I see. More commonly, what I hear is like they look at it and it looks disgusting to them. But I would say for the smell, well, I would want to find out what smells in particular and come up with foods that don't have as much of a smell. Also, honestly, maybe trying to eat a little bit while plugging your nose. I mean, I know that sounds, I've never actually recommended that because this usually, the smell is usually not that big of a deterrent. But like for people who don't like the touch, I do often recommend they'll try cooking while wearing gloves to make that more tolerable and engaging with the food that way. So yeah, I would probably try to find foods that don't have a strong smell. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, no, absolutely. And you just made me think of another one because we had somebody on before who was late diagnosed autistic, and she was talking about like her process with cooking, and she was like, I'm just not cooking ever. Like I'm not doing this. And now that we're at a point in time where neurodiversity and neurodiverse adults are like more understood, more recognized, where do you see the any like disconnect, any interactions in positive, negative struggles, what have you, with like neurodiverse adults and their kids?
Can you explain the question a bit more?
Yeah. If there's a parent who has autism, ADHD, what have you, and their child also has it, and the parent might have been very picky eater growing up, but now they figured out coping mechanisms, what have you. what's like the process in a sense for you for that, where it's a neurodiverse adult with their neurodiverse kid? Or I guess like, is there any noticeable things that jump out to you?
Okay, I would say it depends, but often what I will see is a kid with ADHD and their parent tells me they also have ADHD, but we're focusing on the kid. So my recommendations are going to be for the kid, but I'll also keep in mind that we need to keep things very simple so that it's practical for the parent to be able to apply my recommendations in our work together. So simple as possible, work on a few things each time, simple meal ideas, simple recipes. Can we come up with things that the whole family can eat so that the parent doesn't need to make 4 different dinners every single night? That's you, Matt.
Oh my God. I'm like a short order cook at dinner time. I'm like, all right, so we got the pasta with butter, we got the pasta with the red sauce, whatever my wife's gonna eat, and I'll eat whatever's left over. Like, and then my kids will be like, Dad, now I want chocolate milk. I'm like, oh my God. But like chocolate milk was like one of our accommodations. Like, we know how important it is for kids to drink milk, or kids didn't really want to drink the milk. And I was like, oh, well, this powdered chocolate milk stuff is not terrible. But then when the kids want to drink it, they're getting the milk. And our pediatrician was like, absolutely, do more of that. Because the benefits of getting milk way outweigh like the extra half gram of sugar they're getting or whatever it might be. And like, I remember like having like really feeling like enlightened in that moment, being like, all right, I don't have to do this like everybody else. Like I'm doing the thing that works for my family, my kids.
Mm-hmm. Totally.
I love this idea of not trying to change everything at once, right?
Mm.
Because I think like the shame and blame that's tied up in this, right? I mean, like when you become a parent, part of your job is to provide for your child, right? They should have a roof over their head and clothes on their bodies and potable water and then food in their bellies. And when they won't eat, absolutely that like it like cuts you to the bone. And I love this idea of like, don't try and fix it all at once. Like it's a big problem. Do what you can when you can to start moving in a positive direction. What's your process, Jackie, for keeping parents on pace, like not having them freak out and try and do all 11 changes at once? Like, I feel like that's where the coaching part of this comes in.
How do I keep them focused on a few things at a time? Well, at every session, like every follow-up, I do a check-in and I ask if there's anything particular they want to focus on today, or if they would prefer that I make the recommendations. And then we come up with a few things, like 2 to 5 things to work on. And I always send them notes after. So they have the notes, they have it all written down. Then I always ask them, like, how does this feel for you? Is this too much? Should we cut it down? Should we pick the top 2 priorities to work on? Like, are you overwhelmed? And yeah, if they say, no, this is good, this feels very manageable, then we keep it as is. If they say it's too much, then we pare it down. And then I would say another big thing is to give them time. So that's why I like to space my sessions 4 to 6 weeks apart, because I want the parents to have time to implement and start to see some positive changes. So yeah, giving them time, I would say, is a big thing.
I love that. Let's switch it up a little bit, because as an adult, the more adult clients I see, the more I see that IBS. Like, I mean, like you seeing these super sensitivities, right? At least that's how I've always seen them, right? It's like, we know neurodivergent people have more sensory input. Their brains are wired in that way. Like, so for all of our IBS sufferers out there, who are like dreading that second cup of coffee, like, what's your protocol for working with that population?
Okay, so I would say that if someone with IBS is coming to me, then they either have also ADHD or autism. And honestly, it's also very individualized, but I would say I like to see, like, get down to the root cause of why they're having the bloating and why they're constipated and then have periods of diarrhea. Oftentimes, I would say more often I'll see it in like an autistic adult who has a lot of food aversions and they're not really eating much fiber. So they will end up having a lot of GI symptoms or IBS-like symptoms. They might not have a diagnosis. So we can work on safe ways to increase more fiber that feel comfortable for them. Also, sometimes it's eliminating some foods. I try not to do that as much, but there is something called a modified low FODMAP diet. FODMAPs are fermentable oligosaccharides, disaccharides, monosaccharides, and polyols. That's what it stands for. It's basically a fancy way of saying different foods that ferment in the gut and cause a lot of gas and bloating. So, because there's this added layer of executive dysfunctioning in neurodivergence, I try very hard not to have them eliminate a lot of foods. So I usually don't do like the strict low FODMAP diet, but sometimes they'll say they want to try the modified low FODMAP diet. So they do remove some of the foods that can cause the biggest offenders of bloating and gas, and that helps their symptoms. And then we could sometimes work on slowly incorporating them back in. But I would say oftentimes it's fiber. They're not getting enough fiber. And then that helps to regulate their bowels. Does that answer your question?
Absolutely. Eat more fiber, friends. That's what we're trying to do. All right, Jake, you want to take the next question, bud?
Yeah, absolutely. When you were talking, I was writing one down specifically that's like, what's a common misconception about what you do or what you've been experiencing that you kind of want to dispel a little bit?
Ooh, I love that.
Yeah, so a lot of people think that the only thing dietitians do is weight loss. And that could not be farther from the truth. Like, we just spent a whole bunch of time talking about so many things in nutrition that have nothing to do with weight. So I hope that can dispel that. And yeah, I would say that's the biggest like annoying thing. Or people will say to me, oh, you work with neurodivergent clients, so you give them like a meal plan and you give them a specific diet to help with their ADHD. And that's not what I do either. Like, not at all. Like, my clients cannot follow meal plans. It does not work for them or their brains, and like, I don't believe in prescribing specific diets, and there is no diet that's going to cure or treat ADHD or autism. So that's another really big myth that I hope gets dispelled today.
Oh, man. That little stinger alone is worth this whole episode, but we're just swimming in good content right now. Jake, that was a fabulous question. Let me dovetail on that for a second.
Absolutely.
Like, so if we're going to expand this at way more than weight loss, right?
Mm-hmm.
What are some of the positive impacts of a healthier diet? Like, not even dropping that last 10 pounds, not even looking better naked. Like, we're just talking like, what are the benefits, right? Because like, you hear a lot of stuff like, I have more energy, I have a better mood, I don't have that brain fog. Like, but those things feel hard to measure, right? So what are the things you see, Jackie?
Okay, so let me first just say or clarify that my approach is weight inclusive. So I focus on all the other benefits that come along with making these wonderful habit changes that have nothing to do with weight or how our bodies look. So I do not focus on weight loss. I just want to make that clear. So yeah, I am very weight neutral, weight inclusive. So in terms of benefits that I'll see in my adults that I work with, so either they themselves are autistic or they have ADHD or both, they do say they have more energy, like truly. They are able to focus better during the day. They are not binging at night anymore because they've started eating consistently. They feel less stressed about eating. They feel like they have it under control now. It's not as overwhelming. They know how to feed themselves. They feel like they've stopped or let go of that diet culture lingo of labeling foods as good or bad. They've really started to unlearn those things. Better digestion, more regular bowel movements, less bloating. I've seen improvements in blood work, better cholesterol levels, better blood sugar levels, people with fatty liver who've really changed their diets and seen benefits from that. Well, I could tell you a story. Last week, one of my clients with ADHD, she told me that she went through a few month period of several family members being ill. And she really prioritized her nutrition because of the work we'd been doing together. And she had started something we'd worked on is batch cooking and keeping half of those meals stored in the freezer for future meals. When all this stuff hit the fan, she had a freezer stocked full of meals that she was able to feed herself with when she had no time to cook. And she didn't get sick. And she had still maintained her energy levels and was able to get through this really stressful time. And she attributed that to her diet. And I thought that was unbelievable, truly extraordinary. So that's, yeah, a pretty big one. With families, I'll have parents tell me, you know what, dinner time is less of a battle now. I feel more relaxed at dinner time. My kids feel more relaxed. I know how to introduce new foods for them. My kid is catching up with their growth curve now. Their iron levels have normalized. They're able to stay on their ADHD medication. They're trying new foods. They're not constipated anymore. And something profound is one parent telling me that she's let go of the pressure to cook dinner from scratch every night. She realized that it could be simple. She was putting so much pressure on herself to do an amazing job as a mother, as a cook for the family, and it was causing a lot of stress. And when she let go of that and started making simple, fun dinners like quesadilla night or pizza night, the kids enjoyed it more. It was fun, and she felt so much better about herself. So, yeah, so those are some of the many benefits. Oh, I've also had clients tell me that they didn't get seasonal depression this year, which is pretty interesting.
Sign me up.
Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, lots of wonderful benefits.
Go ahead, Jake.
Yeah, just off of all of that, like my background's in humanities, a lot of like cultural, broad human analysis kind of stuff, and hearing you talk about the fact that it's like, oh, I don't have to put all this effort in. I don't have to do, going over the top, making like a from scratch lasagna or something every night. Like, it doesn't have to be over the top like that. And I was curious, like, how much cultural and like societal influence do you think, or do you see in your clients, and like, how do you navigate that with them, or do you navigate that with them?
Yeah, I mean, I see a lot of diet culture language showing up in the way that they talk. So that could look like, I was bad today. Or, oh, I was good today. I ate a salad. Or like, oh, no, I shouldn't eat that. I shouldn't eat that. That's bad. So I try to tell them food doesn't have morality. You did not commit a crime for eating a burger. That's not a crime. You fed yourself. And then I also do actually have a PDF that has a list of books, Instagram and TikTok influencers who are body positive, and podcasts that they can listen to if they want to explore the topic further. But it's a lot of me hearing the way they speak and then interrupting them and coming up with a reframe for that. Yeah. Does that answer your question?
No, absolutely. It definitely does. Because I mean, that's such a huge societal thing, and like a societal cultural issue of just, I ate a bad food today kind of thing.
Yeah. Yep. So how much better is it if we reframe that to, I ate food today?
And taking away like the power of like, it's a good or a bad food. It's just like, it exists. It's a food.
Exactly.
It doesn't have a good or a bad quality to it in a sense.
Exactly. Instead of good, I like to say nourishing. This is nourishment. This is fuel. This is energy. I find that's more positive language.
I mean, it's really analogous once again to like in therapy, right? There are no good feelings or bad feelings. Feelings are just feelings, right?
Yes.
Anger is not a bad feeling. It can be an uncomfortable feeling. And thinking about how foods impact me, like nothing more I love than a big old plate of nachos. That's not going to be the most comfortable eating experience for me. But yeah, I mean, stepping out of the insidiousness of the diet culture and the language we use around that, like, I failed today, I did bad today. It's like, no, man, you put food in your body.
Mm-hmm.
That's an okay thing.
Yes. Yes.
Talk a little bit more, if you would, about like being like weight neutral, body positive, like those are terms, once again, you see a lot in the zeitgeist, right? So like what are those terms?
Yeah, so I would say being weight neutral, to me, it means focusing on behavior changes and making sustainable habits independent of what happens to our weight and our bodies, and focusing on the many other benefits that come with changing our diet that have nothing to do with weight. So, all of those many other things I mentioned before, better blood work, better mood, more energy, getting sick less often. These are amazing, amazing health benefits that show that we can still improve our health even if our weight doesn't change. And it's also, to me, it's really important to be non-judgmental. So, like with my adults, I don't ask them what they weigh. I don't ask them to count calories. I don't ask them to weigh themselves regularly. In fact, often I'm telling them not to weigh themselves. So it's a lot of releasing that judgment. I have no judgment when people tell me what they eat. Absolutely zero. I've heard it all. And giving people the same, no, nothing is the same for everyone, but the same care and attention that I would give to someone in a quote unquote like thin body. So the same care to all bodies.
I mean, we love that. I mean, I've struggled with my weight my whole life, and the idea is care for all bodies, I think, is such a powerful thing, because so much of the messaging we get in our society is neurodivergent people feel othered anyway.
Yeah.
But if you're neurodivergent and you don't have that like societally normed body, it's like, well, you'll get the things you want once you're fit, once you're attractive, once you're skinny. So, it's another hill to climb for the neurodivergent community. And like, but all bodies are good bodies. And that's something certainly I've worked with my own therapist on. It's like you can slave on every calorie you count and every choice you make on food, or you can say, I'm going to try and make healthy choices whenever I can and honor the body I have. And it sounds like that's something that, your work is really foundational towards not only the practical skills of getting there, but also the mindset that shifts our relationship to the food and the calories to get us there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So if someone comes to me and they have high cholesterol and they also have ADHD, let's say there's two people with both of those things. One is in a smaller body, one is in a larger body. I will give the same advice to both of them of how they can improve their cholesterol. I'm not going to tell the person in a larger body, we got to have you lose weight to improve your cholesterol. No, we got to increase your fiber. We have to add in those foods that are going to help with your cholesterol levels.
I think that's beautiful. I love that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
All right. Well, I'm going to go rethink what I'm going to eat for lunch. Okay. So as we start to wrap up, Jackie, Jake and I are going to ask you our wrap up questions, and then you can send our audience home with something fun. I'll kick us off. Jackie, if you could have any superhero on speed dial, who would it be and why?
Oh my gosh. Oh my God. I don't really watch superhero movies, I have to admit. Maybe Spider-Man, because he can get me places really quickly.
I love that. Practical, to the point. Who doesn't love Spidey? We're here for that. All right, Jake.
So my question for you is, what's your favorite word and why?
Resilience.
Ooh, love that.
Resilience. Yes. I've had to be very resilient in my life, and I see it a lot in my clients as well. And I would say that resilience is the key to how we make changes in life, because we're going to go through the ups and downs. That's going to happen. And there's going to be a lot of challenges along the way. But if we're resilient, then we can manage them and work with them.
All right. Well, Jackie, I don't know how you're going to just top the beautiful thing you just said about resilience. With that said, the microphone is yours. What's something you want our audience to take away from having heard you talk today?
Yeah, so if I were to send you off with one message, it's that keep things simple. It's better to eat something than nothing. Nutrition does not need to be overcomplicated. Just keep it simple. It's okay to have simple meals, simple snacks. Just keep it simple.
I wish there was more of you around when I was growing up.
Ah.
I wouldn't have eaten just chicken nuggets my whole life.
Got to say, it's like Jake. The whole time she's talking, I was like, "Boy, what is Jake's wedding menu going to look like?"
It is all barbecue. We have burgers and hot dogs.
Let's go. Yeah, it's really quite something. But yeah, I mean, but that's the thing. I mean, that's part of the reason we wanted to amplify you, Jackie, is that like there are so many people out there who are saying like, God, I wish I knew this, or like this is amplifying these messages are so important, and not just to the neurodivergent community, but like to all humans, right?
Mm-hmm.
You know, thank you for the work you do and for being such an advocate. I mean, it's really beautiful to hear your story and like how practical it is and how non-judging. I mean, really, you're like, there's just such a beautiful empathy to you. And I think that's something people really need, but also are going to respond to.
Thank you so much for saying that. That means a lot.
It's easy to say when it's true. So on that note, then we will wrap up this episode and stay tuned to find out what Jake eats at his wedding and what I eat for lunch. we'll blast that out there. But Jackie, you're fabulous. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and your skills with us. And we'll put all how to find you and such in the show notes.
Okay, yeah. So check out my website, JackieSilverNutrition.com. We're a team of 2 dietitians. We work with clients in Canada and the US. We do one-on-one virtual nutrition counseling for neurodivergent kids, teens, and adults. I also have an online course, Meal Prep Made Easy for Neurodivergent Adults. We have a very active blog. We release 4 new blog posts per month, all on topics related to nutrition and neurodiversity. And we have an email list. We send out emails twice a month with lots of helpful tips. And we also have a really cool free download, which I'll send you the link for and you could put in the show notes. It's a neurodivergent grab and go foods list. So talk about making things simple. It's a list of literally grab and go healthier packaged foods that you can use to make really 2-minute meals and snacks. So I recommend everyone go download that. It's a game changer.
Love that.
And on Instagram, I'm Accessible Wellness. Follow me there.
Jackie, will you tell us how many downloads you get after the episode drops? It's like your servers are going to crash. It's going to be great.
Oh, I love that. I'm ready.
Yeah, nice problem to have. Well, for all of us here at Nerding Out on Neurodiversity, thanks for being with us, for joining us and learning with us today. Thank you, as always, for trusting us with your time. I hope you learned something. I hope you feel inspired. Go out there and be great, and we'll see you next time. Take care. Nerding Out on Neurodiversity is brought to you by Dr. Matt Zakreski and the team at the Neurodiversity Collective. To learn more about the Neurodiversity Collective or to be a guest on the podcast, please visit our website at www.theneurodversitycollective.com/podcast. Audio and production by Jake Noonan. Show your support by subscribing, leaving a 5-star review, and telling your friends about us. Our Instagram and social media handles are at #NoonPodcast, NOON podcast. Your support is appreciated and keeps us going. All discussions presented on this podcast are strictly for informational purposes, awareness, and understanding. The advice presented is not and should not be considered to be therapeutic in nature. If you have any mental health questions, please contact your provider. All rights reserved.
You're listening to the Geekscape Network.